This is the Commodities, Scrap Metal Recycling and Economic Report by our Bentley roll-up trailers and gondola trailers open-top trailers, November 14th, 2022. U.S. weekly raw steel production fell to 1.64 million tons on the slowing U.S. and global economy. The U.S. dollar index, that's the strength of the U.S. dollar versus other global currencies. It fell to 106.3 on the belief that inflation is slowing. Lower inflation brings lower interest rates, which weakens the U.S. dollar. A weaker U.S. dollar increases the cost of imports and lowers the cost of exports. WTI crude oil price fell to $88.96 a barrel, but remains pretty high. This was on tight supplies along with relaxing some of China's COVID restrictions. The U.S. weekly oil rig count rose to 622 with the slow trend up. Europe ends Russian oil purchases on December 5th, so U.S. exports could increase and prices could remain high or go higher. U.S. weekly crude oil production rose to 12.1 million barrels per day in a tight range for the past 6.5 months. It could now rise with the Russian oil ban we just discussed as we export more oil to Europe. Scrap steel number one HMS price fell to about $275 a gross ton on falling demand, with scrap imports competing with U.S. scrap. The lower U.S. dollar we just talked about will reduce imports and help scrap exports, which could raise U.S. scrap prices. Hot rolled coil steel price fell to $32.75 a hundredweight, which is $655 a ton on the lower demand as the economy slows. Copper price rose to $3.94 a pound, the highest since June. Lower inflation supports demand, and there are record low copper inventories. Note that higher copper prices typically forecast good economic growth. Aluminum price rose to $1.12 a pound, which is $24.76 a metric ton, as lower inflation is bringing economic optimism. China October imports. Note that China imports and exports are massive. They fell 0.7%, the first contraction since August 2020, which hurts global growth. Soybeans and copper were down as oil, coal, and iron ore rose. U.S. November U of M Consumer Sentiment Index. It fell to 54.7 as current conditions sank. Inflation expectations for the year ahead rose to 5.1% as five-year expectations rose to 3%. The Federal Reserve hates the five-year 3%, which they really want to be about 2%. U.S. October NFIB Small Business Optimism Index fell to 91.3, a three-month low and well off 2018's high. Inflation remains the number one concern, but they're still hiring new workers. U.S. October Annual Consumer Price Inflation, CPI, slowed to 7.7%, the lowest since January. Note that core inflation fell to 6.3%. Gasoline, food, and used cars rose slower. Commodities and medical services pushed inflation lower, though. U.S. initial unemployment claims rose to 225,000, the highest since in the last 4 weeks, actually. It is still low, but the increase is liked by the Federal Reserve, which wants more people unemployed. That helps lower wages, so lowers inflation. Wall Street's Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 1,345 points to 33,748, up a big 4% for the week. Lower inflation could bring a 0.5% interest rate increase in December versus 0.75, which we've been seeing. Want to carry 22.5 tons or more on a short roll-off trailer? The Bentley Super Mini Long Triaxle is a short 33 feet, not 40 feet. It legally picks up over 21.5 tons. Call Bentley for a quote. As always, feel free to call or email me with any questions, and we hope all have a safe and profitable week.